Good Sunday morning and welcome to WGN-TV Political Report. I'm Paul Lisnick. We begin this morning in Washington where a government shutdown deadline looms ahead on Tuesday night. President Trump canceling negotiations with White House and Senate Democrat leaders and warning federal agencies to prepare for mass firings, but it's enough. President Trump insisted there could be other indictments coming. Illinois Congressman Mike Quigley, a Democrat who represents the 5th District, joins me this morning in our WGN studios. Congressman, good to see you. I want to start with the Comey indictment. You're a lawyer. You appreciate that. Listen, Comey's no friend to Republicans or Democrats, for people who remember 2016 and his coming out about Hillary. But it seems to be that it's the political nature of this indictment, not necessarily what he did or didn't do, that is bothersome.
Yeah, the timing's suspicious, and the fact the president forewarned this sort of thing. Again, he was no friend to Hillary Clinton. But when he testified in front of my committee, the Intel Committee, I always thought he's trying to be painfully honest, almost to a fault, when he didn't have to be, and bring things out that were unnecessary. So I have to think this is weaponizing the Justice Department. It should scare everyone. I'd like to think former Republican prosecutors and members of Congress would step up and recognize this. This is a very dangerous time for the rule of law.
You've been in the seat before, right? Roger Stone, who did go to jail.
Well, Roger Stone went to jail on my questioning. He perjured himself, went to jail for his lies to me and as a member of Congress, and then the President, Trump, commuted his sentence, let him out. So I don't think he's worried about lying to Congress. It's because he does it all the time. I think it's about going after the people you don't like.
Let me talk about the government shutdown that is looming. It seems that Trump isn't willing to meet with the Democrats, but Trump has a very loud voice. He will put this on the Democrats. Looks like a lot of chaos will be caused. How will Democrats get people to see this potentially as a Trump-owned shutdown, if that happens, and will it happen?
Well, we're going to shut down. The President is the head of the White House. They control the House. The Republicans control the Senate. There's not a lot we can do if they're unified. The president has said no negotiating with Democrats, so it's hard to do. But you put it in our side, why would you negotiate with them? Because the last time we did that, they reneged. It takes 60 votes in the Senate to approve a spending bill, 50 to pull it back. Fool me once. Why would we trust them?
But when Schumer in the Senate sort of caved, he said, people don't understand. You're giving him more power than ever to allow a shutdown. Now he can fire. He decides what's essential.
Absolutely, but on the other side, he's going to control that anyway. You don't want to be complicit with someone who's putting together a spending package that ravages the things we care about.
We see ICE presence growing. They're coming by water now in the Chicago River. You see this growing. And look, there are people who support the efforts. If you're not here legally, you've got to go. But we also see people getting injured and other sorts of things. And people look to at least those from the Democratic districts and say, what are you doing about it?
The American people voted to secure the borders. But I do believe the American people support comprehensive immigration reform. And we are all for, if someone's a bad person, they need to be removed. But it is a small fraction of the removals that are taking place. So this is really versus what I think the American people want. And we have to vocalize that and let them know that it matters. You know, my understanding is the majority of the communities really have a hard time with people who are working hard, contributing. When we have press conferences on immigration issues, the Chamber of Commerce is there, the ag sector is there, hospitality industry. This is about 11 million people who are vital to our country for a whole lot of reasons.
Tariffs, more coming in this week. Pharmaceuticals and furniture and upholstery and trucks. You know, thus far, even with the tariffs that there have been, it seems as though you're not getting a lot of gripes from people. The market still looks good. Is the pharmaceutical going to hit people? It's
going to hit people, but you're starting to see it elsewhere as well. Obviously, small businesses come to me. They're the ones with almost no wiggle room. In Chicago, your flowers cost a lot more because 85% of them are brought into this country. When you talk to the car dealers, the manufacturers, through inventory and some subsidies, they've been able to hold back a little bit, but the cost of new cars is going to go up because of these tariffs.
Of course, the president said during the Oval Office this past week, inflation's over, we've beaten it, and Howard Lutnick, his Commerce Secretary, he was on air going, this isn't the Trump economy. That doesn't kick in until 2026. Now, you're smiling, but what do American people believe?
The American people believe that the current president owns the economy, no matter what the circumstances. And frankly, it doesn't always matter in terms of who's actually to blame. The fact of the matter is the American people hold the president responsible. And the president promised that on day one, costs would go down. They've gone up.
You continue to wear Ukraine pin. This is a very important area for you. It's a topic you're well versed in, but interesting seeming reversal of position on Trump this past week, where he sort of suggested, hey, Ukraine can win this thing, get back everything that it's lost. I guess he's not happy with Putin, but what kind of faith are you putting in what he said this week?
None. Putin understands strength. He doesn't see it in Trump. The president has options here. He could do another supplemental. He can seize the Russian assets here, and they can do that in Europe to fund a war effort. But he's not doing any of those things, and Putin understands that. This is a war of attrition. Putin gets it. He does not see strength in Trump. Trump can say what he wants, but unless he does something, Putin will continue to slowly advance.
Looks like a TikTok deal is going to happen, and it seems that some of Trump's friends are involved, like Larry Ellison of Oracle. That's been reported. Problem resolved?
Let's see the details. I mean, we have no idea whether or not China actually still controls some aspect. It's hard to imagine they would have given it all up without any sort of a fuss, because it was a big deal to them. There are national security concerns with TikTok, but so far we've seen none of the details.
Secretary Hegseth calling in all the generals, like several hundred people coming. We don't know why, although, I mean, is it a pep session? Are you concerned about it that the Secretary of War is having a meeting of all the generals?
It's a concern. Here's something that's important for everybody to, when they're watching what this president does. There's almost no communication with Congress and zero communication with Democrats. So no matter what they're thinking about and planning, we're going to find out when you find out.
Well, I don't know if it's a good thing. You should find out before me, but I guess not. Congressman, thank you for coming in.
Anytime.
I appreciate it. We covered a lot of ground with you today. We're going to take our first break. Up next on WGN TV Political Report, we're headed to the campaign trail. Darren Bailey jumps in the Republican race for governor. Is Illinois headed for a 2022 rematch? We're talking to a Republican strategist when we come back. Stay with us.